Well, hello, everybody. Welcome and welcome all to the Junk Shop Library channel, where I may or may not be talking to myself. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up and backseat driver me. I see. Okay, here we go. There we are. Aha! With the new custom background. I love it. I love it a lot. All right. This is a little confusing. I've got too many screens looking at me from too many directions, and I'm not good with it. All right. So welcome, everybody, to the Junk Shop Library channel, home of improv Bible study, where we read every word of the King James Bible, because it's the one in the public domain, and then rip at the new asshole. It's so deserved. Just for the record, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. This channel is absolutely positively under no circumstances whatsoever for children, because we deal with the Bible. And not just that that's something peculiar to the King James Bible of 1611, but because the Bible is a horrible, misogynistic, gross, anti-humanist piece of trash. So, join me, if you will, in our journey through the horribleness that is the word of the Lord. And check the chat real quick and see who we've got here. I know we've got quite a few people in the library today. Zoom. All right, I know we've got Amiga Nuts. My fantastic producer, a bit of tea and Danish, is in the house. Thank God, if he existed. Joan is here, all the way from the Netherlands, working on face masks for family, but unable to react. That's all right. We can react to you. And good on you for making the face masks, by the way. God damn. We've all got to wear those masks. Nerdy Rodent is here and ready for the smiting. Nerdy Rodent and I have been running into each other all over the internet today. Hello again, my friend. Godless Sewing is here. Hello. Good to see you. A relatively recent library card holding person, if memory serves. Good to have you, as always. Morton Nielsen popped in and then left. And Morton better not be in the chat right now, because Morton is driving. Nerdy Rodent has a smiting stick. Yes, indeed. Julie LaVoice was in the chat, but then Julie LaVoice was so kind as to give me her phone so that I could read the Bible off of it, because I can't find my fucking Bible to save my life today. Dave is here, quietly woofing in the corner. That's all right. And Santy the Sane and Brainbug both have joined us since I started blathering on. Welcome, Santy. Good to see you. And Brainbug, my friend. Hello. All righty. Everybody, even Amiga Nuts is in a smiting mood. We're ready to smite here in the library today, and I'm all right with that. Seeing it's been either boredom or smiting here in the Book of Sec. Am I looking anywhere near where the camera is? Let me see. Yes, okay, that's where my camera is, so that's where I ought to be making eye contact if I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm having to look here for the chat and here for the camera. So if I look the wrong way for a minute, y'all just bear with me. And remember, technology and I get along like a fucking house on fire. Paul Camish is in the house. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you as always. Paul has been doing the ambitious thing the last couple of days. Paul went back to the very beginning. To In the Beginning, the very first video on this channel, and has been watching the early shit from Genesis. Be proud of me, my friend. I have grown and hope to continue to grow. Oh, brain bug. You need to check out Paul's channel. There's a video over there from, what was it, Paul, yesterday, the day before? They all kind of run together these days. That you, brain bug, particularly, I think would get a kick out of. All right. Well, before we launch into the terror and horror of Holy Writ, we got to do the thing. We got to thank my wonderful patrons who you see listed there on your screen, thanks to Linda's fantabulous graphic coffee and all. You see my patrons listed there in order of addition. Paul Camish, my first and fabulous patron. Thank you, my friend. Brainbug joined us, and then Linda, who is now joining us on the producing side of the camera. Thank you so much. This would not, literally not be possible today without you, Linda. And I hope, I know I have not thanked you enough for that. And my most recent patron, Kim, who is a dear friend of mine in real life, and recently discovered my crazy here on the internet and has decided to join the crowd. Paul's driving at the moment. Okay, well, then I don't want to see you in the chat for a minute, my friend. Don't, no. All right, Brainbug, you saw the bee rescue. Good, good, good. All right, let me think. Oh, there was one other bit of housekeeping I needed to do. I made a mental note, but not a sticky note, which is why I'm surprised I remembered it at one level. I know there are some of y'all out there who are watching and have only joined us recently, real recently, within the last couple of weeks here in the library. And quite a few of you have not made your subscriptions public, so I can't thank you by name for joining us. But know that you are seen and you are welcome, and always welcome to join ye olde crowd here in the chat, if you so desire. There is no pressure. All right. Well, we are fast approaching the end of the, by turns, incredibly tedious and oddly eventful book of 2 Kings here. I don't know how much of it we're going to get through today, but finally found my place because my bookmark went missing when my Bible did. Gonna have to get me a backup copy and stick it somewhere where I'll remember where it is, which is probably a sure enough way that I'll lose it and never see it again. You know how that goes. It's like ordering appetizers too late, or lighting a cigarette while you're waiting for the bus. It's a sure way to ensure that exactly the opposite occurs. All right. Excuse me while I wake up Holy Writ. All righty. Let's see what terrors and horrors the word of the Lord has for us today. The Daily Atheist just rolled up in here. Hello, Chris. Good to see you, my friend. Fantastic show you had this morning. That was a great episode. Important stuff. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it over there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not watching the Daily Atheist Morning Show. And after we're done here, you need to pop over there and subscribe. All right, we begin today with 2 Kings 21st chapter. I know, only 21 chapters. It feels like a fucking eternity, but it really has only been 20 chapters we've been slogging through this blasted book of 2 Kings. Ugh. I'm not a fan. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. I swear we've had more named women in the book of 2 Kings than we have in any other book of the Bible. I'm all for it. It's just kind of unusual and unusual. Because, hello, misogyny on toast, this fucking book. All right, his mother's name, Manasseh's mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built, oh dear, and he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his sons pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. And he set up a graven image of the grove that he had made in the house, of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they hearkened not, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. And the Lord spake by his servants the prophets, saying, because Manasseh king of Judah hath done these abominations, and hath done wickedly above all that the Amorites did which were before him, and hath made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle. And I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria, and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipeth a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will forsake the remnant of mine inheritance, and deliver them into the hand of their enemies, and they shall become a prey and a spoil to all their enemies. Because they have done that which was evil in my sight, and have provoked me to anger, since the day their fathers came forth out of Egypt, even unto this day. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood very much, till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, beside his sin wherewith he made Judah to sin, in doing that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and all that he did, and his sin that he sinned, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Manasseh slept with his fathers, and was buried in the garden of his own house, in the garden of Uzzah. And Ammon his son reigned in his stead. And Ammon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Meshullemeth, the daughter of Haruz of Jotbah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father Manasseh did. And he walked in all the way that his father walked in, and served the idols that his father served, and worshipped them. And he forsook the Lord God of his fathers, and walked not in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Ammon conspired against him, and slew the king in his own house. And the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Ammon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Now the rest of the acts of Ammon which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his sepulchre in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his stead. And there we have the 21st chapter of the book of 2 Kings. Okay. 2 bad kings. That's it. All right, now, chapter 22. I'm only a little bit kidding. I mean, my stars and gallows, it's just more of the same, isn't it? Just, and this king fucked up, and he fucked up by doing the idolatry, and then he died. And his son, whose mother's name was thus and such, did evil. And he did evil by way of doing the idolatry. And then he died. And if you want to know anything else about them, check over in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Jesus Christ. There's nothing to get your teeth into in this chapter. Barring any shrieking resentment from the chat, which better come along pretty quick because y'all know about my lag issues. We're just going to leave this at there was two bad kings and they done fucked up, and one of them died natural and one of them died of assassination, and we'll just move into the next chapter because there is nothing to bite. Jesus Christ. I mean, I know I was complaining before we even started that this book was repetitive, but god damn. Lordy, I wish we had this book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. It would be so much more interesting. All of the deeds that they did and all of the sins that he sinned in this fucking completely lost-ass book. It would be so much more, so much more interesting than this. Well, I've said it before, the Reader's Digest version of the Book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah, which apparently is what Second Kings is. It's just the Reader's Digest version of this lost text, which apparently must be well and good for sure for fucking lost, because we included the Reader's Digest version, and apparently the Council of Nicaea couldn't even dig up fragments of the Book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah to shoehorn in here sideways somehow. All right, we're moving right along. Moving on. All right, chapter 22. Every single ad on this page is telling me how to stay sharp after 60. I think that probably gives you a good idea of the demographic of the people who are reading the King James Bible free on the internet. I'll just leave that where it lies and let you do with that what you may. You know, when I was scrolling through trying to find what chapter I was supposed to be in, I saw all that doing evil in the sight of the Lord and making their sons pass through fire, and I was like, oh, we ought to be up for some serious smiting today. Were we? No, not one single fucking smite. Why am I here? All right. And they installed Josiah in his stead at the end of the last chapter. I need to get my eyes checked one of these days. The print on this phone is bigger than the print in that crappy dollar store Bible I was using, and I'm still having to use my damn glasses. Well, it's that time. Y'all pardon me. It is allergy season, and the oak trees are not letting me forget it. If this sneeze ever comes, it's going to be a doozy. I'll make sure and lean out of frame. Dude, a lolly. Golly, what a day. All right, so Josiah, installed in his father's stead after a rebellion that was just glossed over in the space of one sentence. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jedidah. the daughter of Adiah of Boskath. And he did, any guesses? That which was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah, that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of the Lord, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people. And let them deliver it into the hand of the doers of the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord, and let them give it to the doers of the work which is in the house of the Lord, to repair the breaches of the house, unto carpenters and masons and builders, and to buy timber and hewn stone to repair the house. Howbeit there was no reckoning made with them of the money that was delivered into their hand, because they dealt faithfully. And Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king, and brought the king word again, and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Milchiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asahiah, a servant of the king's, Go ye, inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shaphan, and Asahiah went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhas, the keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they communed with her. And she said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Tell the man that sent you to me, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the words of the book which the king of Judah hath read, because they have forsaken me, and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and shall not be quenched. But to the king of Judah, which sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall ye say to him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, as touching the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord, when thou heardest what I spake against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and hast rent thy clothes, and wept before me, I also have heard thee, saith the Lord. Behold, therefore, I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered into thy grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. And there we have 2 Kings 22. Wherein we kind of make up for not having anything to sink our teeth into in chapter 21. Because sweet God. Okay, let me check in with the chat real quick. Yes, Amiga Nuts, there was someone laughing in the background. I'll give you a guess who it was. A woman with a name? Yes, exactly. We had multiple women with names, and then a prophetess. Paul's home. All right. So Paul can type. All right. Oh my gosh, where to begin with this fucking chapter? Okay, this chapter, this is about the most toxic shit we've read in a while, isn't it? Y'all know where I'm going. Y'all know me by now. So, King Josiah, who begins his reign at the ripe old age of 8, does everything right. And there's no mention of him leading Israel into sin. Just apparently doing right in the eyes of the Lord, in the same way that every 8-year-old with a shitty idol-worshipping father has a tendency to do. I'll leave that to the social psychologists among us, which ain't me. But anyway, good King Josiah reaches the ripe old age of, what was it, 25, 35? It was one of the two. Who fucking cares? And he notices that the house of the Lord is all beat to shit because it hadn't been maintained. In part, if you remember, it hadn't been maintained because the couple of kings back, it was completely despoiled, including the gold leaf on the doors to pay tribute to the king of Assyria. More evil in the sight of the Lord. Oh, yeah. All right. Cafe, you're new to the channel. I've seen you around some other places. That's all right. Welcome. But if you're looking for biblical hermeneutics or exegesis in scriptural studies, you're in the wrong place, my friend. This is a channel where we rip it a new one, not one where we consider it as a worthy work or as a word of any deity. I'm an atheist and an anti-Christian, and I'm here to rip this shit apart line by line and point out how vicious, how misogynistic, how outdated, how backward, and how just plain old bad this fucking book is. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you are more than welcome to stay. If it don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. All right. So, he notices at some point that the house of the Lord is kind of fallen down and fallen apart and shit. And so he tells the priest, hey, you know all those silver offerings that have been gathered together? Well, let's put them to some use. Let's put this shit back into shape. Let's make the house of the Lord worthy of the Lord again. And so they commence to renovate. And they renovate, and they renovate, and they spiffy it up. And at some point, the high priest finds the book of the law. Because apparently they just been winging it this whole fucking time. Word of mouth passed down, apparently. Wave offerings and sin offerings and feasts and every other fucking thing. Apparently, they've just been playing the world's most high-stakes game of telephone all these generations since the last time the book of the Lord was mentioned, which was a couple of books ago. Not chapters, but books. Couple of 100 years, just by dead reckoning. All right. Well, the priest finds the book of the word of the Lord and says to the scribe, hey, look what I found. You reckon the king might be interested in this? And the scribe says, well, I don't know. He might be. He's, king over an ostensibly theocratic nation and all, he might be interested in the word of our God. And so he takes the book and he says, hey, the renovations is going on great. Literally. Says the doers of the work have done the thing with the stuff in the place. Says the renovations are going great, and look what we found. And he commences to read the book to the king. No word on whether this is some kind of ceremonial gesture because he's the scribe, or whether the king is illiterate. I got my guess. How about you? Since every indication we've had from this book so far is that it's essentially the word of the priestly class for the subjects of the people of the priestly class. Thanks be to the priestly class who ain't got to do shit except chop up animals and eat the steak. And actually, you know what? Y'all, I'm actually glad. This is perfect. Cafe, your timing could not have been better. This last comment of his. I think that's why many people don't understand, or his, hers, theirs. I'm sorry, I don't know. I think that's why many people don't understand the Bible, because they just attempt to plain old read it without any exegetical practice at all. Okay, so here's my problem. And this is the problem that I was going to raise with this book. Since I, once I got done summarizing it. With this chapter, rather. The problem I have with this chapter. If God's so all-fire determined that every fucking word that he happens to shit out be followed letter by goddamn letter, why does he just let it get fucking lost? The entire book of the word of the Lord, it gets lost for generations, for many generations. And then God has the absolute fucking effrontery to get his knickers in a twist that people don't follow his words and his statutes, when the only fucking copy of his words and his statutes has been apparently down behind the couch in the temple all this time. And that's the same problem we have. I've got a physical Bible here that I'm going to shake for emphasis. I'm not using it today because it's not the King James, and it's a translation that's still under copyright, and I don't want to get dinged by the Oxford University Press. If this book is so fucking important, then why directly the Christ does it require exegetical practice in order to understand, rather than able to be just plain old read? That's the whole fucking problem. And that's the problem with people who insist on exegetical, it went away, interpretation, analysis, whatever, exegesis. The people who insist on that it takes exegesis rather than plain old reading to understand, that's what they don't seem to get. If it's so all-fired fucking important to God, why does it require exegesis and advanced degrees and a fucking priestly class for little old me to understand it? I'm just going to open at random here, and we'll see if a plain reading or an exegetical reading would make more sense. Open at random. I find Psalms 137. Wow, this is a broken-in spine. Okay, I'm going to open it at random to someplace a little more random. Isaiah 61. Instead of your shame, you shall have a double portion. Instead of dishonor, you shall rejoice in your lot. Therefore, in your land, ye shall possess a double portion. yours shall be everlasting joy. And that's from the Revised Standard Version of 1962. I think I'm covered on the copyright front there. Fair use. That requires no exegetical analysis. That's a couple of lines of poetry that boil down to, shit's gonna get better for you in the future. If there's more to those handful of lines than shit's gonna get better for you in the future, why the fuck doesn't it say that instead of shit's gonna get better for you in the future? This ain't hard. If this is all it takes to God, I could God a lot fucking better than this. So, whether or not it requires exegesis and a priestly class in order to properly understand, the word of the Lord has been lost behind the sofa of God for the last multiple generations, and God's going to hold the people of Israel, not the king, because the king just somehow lucked into doing what was right, apparently by just doing the opposite of what his fucking daddy did. Not the priests, who apparently fucked up the word of mouth transmission of what you're supposed to do and when and how. You don't need a why, because the why just boils down to the priests say that God says so. But the people, this is just original sin all over again. That's all there is to it. It's just, y'all bad people. And I'm going to take it out of your ass. Thus saith the Lord. Here endeth the sermon. I've been seeing the chat go blasting by at about Mach 5. Let me see what's been going on. Let's see. As Amiga Nuts points out, this is not a show for theologians. Ain't nothing divine here. Plain old read it. Yes, yes, exactly, Paul. Thank you. That's not how you understand scripture. Well, it should fucking be. It should be that easy for the layman just to pick it up and do what's right in the sight of the Lord. If it's that fucking important, it ought to be written down in plain goddamn gutter English that anybody can understand. Remember, that's why the King James Version is written in the dialect that it is. King James commissioned a translation written in words so plain the shepherd boy in the field might understand it. And you can look that up, because for some reason I still got that rattling around in my old brain pan from my Sunday school and church days. Joan says I should be mindful of my blood pressure. I appreciate your concern, my friend. Thank you. God is a prick. Yes, exactly, Paul. Thank you. Nerdy Rodent wonders, have I tried the extragenital reading? We'll come to that in the Song of Solomon a little bit later on. Yes, the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, utter madness and abuse, which is there. If you see, it's down there in the bottom left corner of your screen on my fantastic little custom background that a bit of tea and Danish made for me so beautifully. Cafe says the only thing I'm good at is creating parodies. Well, it's not so much parody as comedic interpretation and evisceration. I did mention earlier, ain't nobody making you stay. Oratory transmission. Yes, that would be the fancy ass way of saying playing a game of telephone. Joan points out that it's probable that the very young king had his advisors tell him how to do it right. Yeah, that's probably true. But where have those advisors been during the reigns of these evil-doing kings? Have they just been bored? Have they been killed? Have they been, there's no, I mean, I agree. I think you're probably right. It feels like there's a story to be told. Oh, it's in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Isn't it? That's where that story is. Never mind. Cafe says, well, it should be readily understood and understandable, but this is obviously not the case. Well, manifestly not. In which case, God, if he exists, is a dick. Because he's got the power to make it easily read and understandable, and he hadn't bothered to get off his ass and fucking do it in 6,000 years. Which is about as old as the oldest text of the book is. The Babylonians had a few extra 1,000 years on that. The Egyptians and the Chinese, a few millennia more than that. Apparently none of them got it right so far. Oh, well, thank you for that, Cafe. It's a compliment that I'm a good comedian. I appreciate that. Comedic evisceration. Sounds like a good hobby, says Nerdy Road. Yeah, that's some Patrick Bateman shit there. Ooh. I have no need of a beatific vision. That sounds like something you'd need high-grade hallucinogens to attain, and not a way to directly apprehend the divine, but a way to get directly apprehended by the local constabulary. Yeah, brain bug, that's what I'm afraid of. Okay, Cafe. I know that's your thing. You've been plugging that all over the internet for I don't know how long, but we're not. I'm not going to allow. Don't anybody do anything yet, okay? But Cafe, I'm telling my mods now. If you tell people to take DMT or any other illegal substances, I'm going to have you timed out. I don't have time for that on my channel. I don't need to be messing with the advocation of illegal substances, and I can't be forever producing disclaimers. I got better things to do with my time, and I think you do too. There we go. All right. Now 300 seconds apiece. You said you thought I was a good comedian. Why aren't you laughing? Okay, so that's 22. Yeah, that's all I got. I ranted for like 15 minutes about that. There's no need though. No, it's no problem, brain bug. Don't worry about it. All right, 23. How long have we been going? Oh, not even an hour yet. Hallelujah.
And we've actually been able to keep going the whole time, thanks to my fantastic producer. Thank you again, Linda. You are the best. Yes, Nerdy Rodent says, laugh or get smitten. Your choice. Agreed. Oh my goodness, a story that continues into the subsequent chapter and doesn't round out a chapter with when what so-and-so did. You can find it over yonder, and he was buried over that away. They still my beating heart. Okay, chapter 23. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears, well, apparently he can read, and he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant which was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by a pillar, and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood by the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Beth El. And he put down the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem, them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the host of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba, and brake down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brethren. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Moloch. And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in of the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathanmelech the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire. And the altars that were on top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down, and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had builded for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. And he brake in pieces the images, and cut down the groves, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Beth El, and the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he brake down, and burned the high place, and stamped it small to powder, and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres, and burned them upon the altar, and polluted it, according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, What title is that that I see? And the men of the city told him, It is the sepulchre of the man of God, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Beth El. And he said, Let him alone, let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. And all the houses also of the high priests that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away, and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, saying, Keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant. Surely there was not holden such a Passover from the days of the judges that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the images, and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the Lord, which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any like him. Notwithstanding, the Lord turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations that Manasseh had provoked him withal. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, My name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up against the king of Israel to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him, and he slew him at Megiddo when he had seen him. And his servants carried him in a chariot, dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own sepulchre. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's stead. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bands at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the room of Josiah his father, and turned his name to Jehoiakim, and took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of every one according to his taxation, to give it unto Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebudah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And that's the end of 2 Kings chapter 23. All righty. I got to tell you a story right quick. But I got to check the chat first because I saw it go past, go past, go past. Oh, this please. Yes, no love for poor Dagon. Nope. Sorry, brain bug. Oh, hey, Amber. Welcome. Always good to see you, no matter what time. Oh, didn't get your notification. Well, there's a surprise. Welcome to YouTube. I actually got a notification on time this morning. I was so blown away. I was like, what the hell is this going on? Oh, and Amber picked us instead of the other one. So sweet. Thank you. Okay. I got to tell you the story real quick before we plunge into the bulk of the text here. I've got a special place in my heart for this chapter because of verse 20. When I was very young, well, not very young, I think I was about 13, 14, something like that. I had a relative who got up on a little bit of a high horse, a bit of a holier than thou streak. And we commenced to debating as to which of us was the better person. This is kind of real important shit you get up to with your brain when you're 13, 14 years old, right? And somehow the idea came up that we needed new mottos for our lives that we might show each other how righteous we were. You can see this coming, right? I promise you to God, I'm not making this shit up. Well, we decided we were going to do the old open the Bible at random test and just plunk our finger down blind, and whatever verse we landed on, that was going to be the motto by which we lived our lives from that moment on. My relative opened the Bible and plunked their finger down and came to the story of Elijah, where he says to the widow, "Go therefore and do all that you have said, but first make me a little cake." So that's the motto for life with which my relative had agreed to live. Here's verse 20, the one that I grabbed. 2 Kings 23:20, completely at fucking random. "And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them. And then he went back to Jerusalem." Thankfully, I at some point decided not to live the life of a genocidal theocrat. But it's still a funny story. Or mildly amusing at any rate. Ah, Mistress Angelica, welcome. Good to see you. Mama Atheist is here. Hello, Amanda. Good to see you as well. Kathy, I've actually heard many interpretations of the burning bush, including the thought that it was something mildly hallucinogenic, and that Moses, or not Moses, but Moses just happened to be standing downwind of it instead of upwind, and that's why he started hearing him voices, and his uneducated ass decided to go on a pilgrimage to the other end of the known universe to rescue his ancestors' people. I don't particularly find various interpretations real interesting, as you may have noticed. I prefer to just read the novel as it stands and not try to read too much into it. Of course, there's various new historicist issues that you have to take into account, but not too much, because there's so many people who don't, which is the problem with this book. Because with this book, you got people saying it's the word of God and you should do exactly what it says. And this book, yeah, I'm going to go there, tells you how to keep your slaves and how severely you can beat them and how to sell your children and all manner of other vile crap. And if you're interested in my take on some of those regulations, I invite you to check out the Exodus
Leviticus, and Deuteronomy playlists from an earlier age of the channel. Yeah, wow, Amiga Nuts on fire today, dropping everybody's links. Thank you, my friend. Good, 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 excellent. Okay. So, after the king has it pointed out to him that the children of Israel done fucked up because they ain't had access to the book of the law, because again, apparently it was under the couch in the temple all these many years. He goes on a rampage. He does. He panics and goes on a rampage and tears down all the altars and breaks all the images and kills all the priests and charges around all of Judea, burning dead men's bones on altars and all manner of stuff. I have no idea what it means to tear down the houses of the Sodomites where the women made drapes for the groves. That sounds like a bad translation issue, which is just all over the place in the King James version of 1611. And anybody who tells you that it's not a bad translation is either ignorant or lying to you. Because A, it was a translation specifically designed to prop up the monarchy, and B, it was kind of translated from crappy fragments of bad translations of crappy texts. So there's that. Nerdy Rodent wants to know, can he only sell his children or can he sell anyone in his family? I think you can sell anyone in your family if you are the head of household. I don't think you can sell your wife. I think you just have to add another one to the fold if you get tired of her. Except there's that one very, very funny verse that sounds explicitly targeted at some very specific situation where it's forbidden to take your wife's sister as a wife if your only purpose in doing so is to vex your original wife. And it is exactly that narrow and that specific. That's back in, I want to say it's in Leviticus, but I wouldn't swear to it. It's occupying a slot in my brain that's later than Exodus, earlier than Deuteronomy, which means if it's in the right slot in my head, it's in Leviticus, but it could have been misfiled. Yeah, darn right, Brainbug. Nerdy got all kinds of smiting in this chapter, even if it's not explicitly phrased as such, but we got slew. We got plenty of slaying. Got enough slaying to keep Faith herself happy. Oh, yeah, and the heathen around you, they're always fair game. All righty. Well, and hello back to Math Pig. Thank you, man. Yeah, Amber points out, who did what to make it into the Bible? Again, that sounds, it's like some of those stupid laws we've got on the books here in the States today. You know, there's a town in New Jersey where it's illegal to throw pickles onto the sidewalk on a Sunday outside a barber shop. It's like, why the fuck did that have to become a law? I mean, there's some very specific situation that was targeted there. And everybody's got their pet crazy law. That's just the first one that sprang to my mind. Yes, and as Amiga points out, remember, babies under 1 month are worthless. Absolutely no worth whatsoever. Don't even count as people. Okay, so having been told that he's going to die peacefully of his old age, and
and yet the Lord is going to wreak vengeance for the badness that they've done over the years, and the badness going all the way back to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, that the kings of Israel have done, which are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. He goes on his smiting rampage, and he smites the priests, and not the high priests, interestingly, just the priests, because there's that weird line towards the end where the high priests of the high places won't go worship the Lord, but they still eat their unleavened bread with themselves in secret. In Connecticut, I absolutely believe you, Amanda. That sounds just dumb enough to be true. He smites the priests, but not the high priests. He smites the witches and the wizards and the mediums and those that deal with familiar spirits, and the sodomites who live near the women who make the ceremonial hangings for the groves, but not the women who make the ceremonial hangings for the groves, unless because they are women who make the ceremonial hangings for the groves, they are not considered significant enough to include in the smiting list. Who fucking knows with this book? It could go either way. And he makes the people of Israel swear. Sorry, I was spelling that in my head and got confused because I had S-W-A-R-E. S-W-E-A-R. He makes the people swear a great oath to the Lord that they will be righteous and uphold his statutes and his commandments and his this and his that and the other. And then he dies, and his son after him didn't learn the fucking lesson, which is kind of the pattern of the book of 2 Kings. All right, we've been going, I think, right at an hour because I was late into the stream. What do we think? Do we want to do one more? Or do we want to call it here with the chapter of great smiting and destruction and the burning of dead men's bones? How say ye? I know I just got some dead air here now. This is going to be riveting in the replay. A little bit of dead air here now that I've asked the feedback of the chat, because the chat is, you know what? I could look at the chat on my phone, I think. Nope, it won't show. That's all right. It'll come up. No bouncing on pickles. Oh, okay, Amiga Nuts. Linda, should this... I don't know. I mean, it was... Technically, it was slay and slew and not smite or smote. Let's just keep it... Let's be real pedantic and keep it as smite. So we don't need to change the smite counter yet because the book hadn't actually said smite. Because I'm just that anal retentive. Out. Out, damn cherry. There we go. All right. Consensus so far is smite on. So we will turn to the 24th chapter. How many chapters does this fucking book have anyway? It's only got 25. All right, 24. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants the prophets. Throw up an asterisk there. Surely at the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah, to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim his son reigned in his stead. And the king of Egypt came not again any more out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken from the river of Egypt unto the river Euphrates all that pertained to the king of Egypt. Holy cow. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. And at that time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother, and his servants, and his princes, and his officers, and the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained, save the poorest sort of the people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land, those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war, even them the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, his father's brother, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. And there we've got the very busy but relatively short 24th chapter of the book of 2 Kings. It's the poorest sort of people. All righty. Well, I guess we know now why we plowed through the last so many kings in such an all-fired fucking hurry. Because there wasn't much to them, except for the couple of them that did good, and the one that tried to turn Israel back to God, but God had already had his anger kindled against them. And now we're in the exile to Babylon. Mildly interesting note to those of you watching live and anybody who's made it this far in the replay. The first place I opened the Bible to when I was opening at random earlier was actually by the willows of Babylon we hung up our lyres for how should we sing the song of the Lord in a foreign land song, the all too familiar song of the exile to Babylon. And then we got the exile to Babylon. Joan says she feels a lot of why coming up. I need to stop myself. Why what? Don't stop yourself. Let fly. We're pretty free form around here. You know that. Paul says, why does the When does the book of Kings finish? Jesus, it seems to go on forever. There's one more chapter, because apparently this is actually in some sort of chronology at this point. We've got the exile to Babylon that just happened, and probably some kind of wrap up in chapter 25. It's the book that never ends. Laughing voice from before is Julie LaVoice, and drops the link. Thank you so much, my friend. Well done. Beg your pardon. Okay. Why doesn't, yeah, well, that's a good one, Joan. Why doesn't God speak to all the kings directly? Because it has to come through the priests. You know that. The word of the Lord has to come through the priests. Just like the offerings to the Lord have to go through the priests. God moves in mysterious ways. Yeah, and that's a point, Joan, thank you. That was what I threw my asterisk up for that I had forgotten to take down. You notice God doesn't smite the children of Israel directly, nor even with any particular efficiency. He sends against them Chaldeans and Syrians, Moabites and Ammonites, because the first assault of the Babylonians didn't take. Because here's the chronology. Nebuchadnezzar, not the last we've heard of old Neb, Nebuchadnezzar invaded, and Jehoiakim was beholden to him for 3 years, and then he rebelled. So then the Lord sends Chaldeans and Syrians, Moabites and Ammonites, and still can't get it. Still can't get the children of Judah under control. Jehoiakim dies. Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim's son, rises to power at the age of 18, rules for 3 months, does evil shit. Then the Babylonians come back, besiege the city, and Jehoiakim surrenders. The city falls, the temple is destroyed. Mattaniah is raised to the kingship by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and renamed Zedekiah at the ripe old age of 21. I've got a structural question. Oh man. Okay, thank you, Nerdy Rodent. Ammonites, an army of fossils. Yes, big spiral gastropods. They come swimming up onto the land. Grumpy old dude is cooking dinner and says hi to all. Well, hi right back at you, Ed. Yeah, Joan points out, or the Israelites should have to sacrifice their firstborn sons. Yeah, well, there is that. Smiting school, says Nerdy Rodent. Yeah? Yeah. Apparently the last few generations hadn't gone to smiting school. And Paul's taking a bath again. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Okay, so we're exiled to Babylon. And Solomon's temple has been destroyed. If we were doing this in the chronological Bible, this would put us, let's see, we've already had Jonah, and we've already had Isaiah. The Lamentations of Jeremiah are about how bad it's going to be when the city falls. God, I'm so glad I didn't work on the chronological Bible. It'd be a fucking nightmare. Can you even imagine trying to drag all this shit up to a timeline and nail it down? One smite, man. Ah, an anime joke that I actually got. Or is it an anime? Manga? I know it's a manga. I don't know if it's an anime. But yes, I got it. Yes, apparently God has no wish to learn. Who knows? All right, so we've got one more chapter, and we'll finish out 2 Kings. And then when we reconvene on, what's today, Monday? When we can reconvene on Wednesday, we'll launch into Chronicles. I don't think it's the Lost Chronicles. I'm going to feel real stupid if it's longer stories about the people we've already encountered in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings, because I've been bitching about this lost book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah for like the last 3 fucking weeks. I'm going to feel dumb as a sack of hammers if it turns out to be. It's been a long time, y'all. It's been a long ass fucking time. 25th and final chapter of the 2nd book of the Kings. Let us see. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his host, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by way of the gate between 2 walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king, and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon, to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, and the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen. And the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Lord, did the Chaldees break in pieces, and carried the brass of them to Babylon. And the pots, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, took they away. And the firepans, and the bowls, and such things as were of gold, in gold, and of silver, in silver, the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, one sea, and the bases which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the brass of all these vessels was without weight. The height of the one pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter upon it was brass. And the height of the chapiter 3 cubits, and the wreathen work, and pomegranates upon the chapiter round about, all of brass. And like unto these had the second pillar with wreathen work. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the second priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. And out of the city he took an officer that was set over the men of war, and 5 men of them that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, which mustered the people of the land, and 70 men of the people of the land that were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, king of the guard, took these, and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them, and slew them at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away out of their land. And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, ruler. And when all the captains of the armies, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, there came to Gedaliah to Mizpeh even Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and Sariah, the son of Tanhumeth, the Netophathite, and Jaazaniah, the son of Maakathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah sware to them and to their men, and said unto them, Fear not to be the servants of the Chaldees. Dwell in the land, and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. But it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal, came, he and 10 men with him, and smote Gedaliah that he died, and the Jews and the Chaldees that were with him at Mizpah. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. And it came to pass in the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, did lift up the head of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, out of prison. And he spake kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did eat bread continually before him all the days of his life. And his allowance was a continual allowance given him of the king, a daily rate for every day, all the days of his life. And that's the end of the 2nd book of the Kings. Finally got a little more smiting out of that book. All right, let's see here. Don't we squeeze, oh, Brainbug says, don't we squeeze the book of Enoch in here somewhere? I'm not touching the book of Enoch. You want that, you can go over to MathPig's channel. I'm not going anywhere near that mess. Yes, Morton points out, burn down the house with fire. As opposed to what? Yes, indeed. And also, welcome back, Morton. Or possibly welcome still. I don't know if you were LWD listening while driving or not. More smiting, more smiting. Tony Designs just says yellow. Yellow what? Are you calling for us to slow down? Is this a safe word issue? And welcome, my friend. Yeah, Nerdy Rodent says, whatever Amanda says, I agree with that. That's usually a safe policy. Oh, yellow, as in hello. Okay, that makes so much more sense. Okay, well, so this is just an expanding and expounding upon the events of the chapter previous. the destruction of the temple, and an explanation of why the poorest sort of people remain in the land. Does anybody know why that's important? Because that's actually super important, that it's only the poorest sort of people, not any mighty men of valor, not any priests, no one of royal blood. Why it was only the poorest sort of people who were left behind when Nebuchadnezzar carried everybody of worth off to Babylon? It's important because after the children of Israel come back, hey, Math Pig, welcome. After the children of Israel come back from Babylon, there are still people living in the land. And they have interbred with the peoples around them. And you know what those folks are called? The descendants of the poorest sort who were left behind and who had mingled their blood with the blood of the heathen around them. Samaritans. Yep. Yes, everybody should definitely make sure they're subscribed to Tony Designs. You won't be bothered by any pesky notifications if you're subscribed to Tony Designs. All right. So the city's been sacked. Not just a little bit either. Completely fucking destroyed. The wall's been torn down. The temple's been destroyed. Everything of value in the temple and the king's house has been carried off in pieces to Babylon. And that's the end of the second book of the Kings. That and the origins of the Samaritans is really all there is to that chapter. That and the fact that it reiterates that the line of kings reigning in what was left of Jerusalem, I guess, were installed by Nebuchadnezzar and not anointed of God. I suspect that'll be important later, though I don't recall. But just from a book reading standpoint, that seems like it's going to be important later on. And with that, we've been going right at 90 minutes, and I think we're going to wrap. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been a fun time, as always. Make sure you hit that like button for me, either right now or on your way out. I really would appreciate that greatly. I've been watching some of my favorite content creators really struggle with their like ratios of late. Poor Chris, the Daily Atheist, he can tell you a nightmare story about this morning's stream and like versus dislike. Oh, hey, Randolph Richardson. I'm sorry, you're rolling up just as we're wrapping up. You'll have to go back and watch from the beginning. Hey, Grumpy Old Dude. Oh, yes, I'll be on Grumpy Old Dude's channel, Ed's channel, on the 19th of this month. So everybody make sure you subscribe to Ed. Amiga Nuts, can you make sure and drop Ed's channel one more time, just so everybody can make sure they're connected? Yes, appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. And yes, Morton's smiting the like button. All right. Like I said, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to my wonderful producer, A Bit of Tea in Danish. If you're not subscribed to her channel, you'll need to make sure and do that as well. As Morton says, keep the smiting strong. Wow, but I should wear this sweater more often. I look ripped.
Okay. As always, everybody, take care. Be safe. Now more than ever, fight against hate. And we'll see y'all again on Wednesday. Same time, same channel. And Linda, you can take us out anytime, my friend. Thank you all so much.